Hello and welcome to the Soulful Mamas podcast. You're with your host Maria and I'm so happy you're here. Welcome. Today's episode is so good. So good. You're going to go on a adventure, a trip around the world. It will feel like you'll go to places that some of you may have never heard of the names. So I am so happy to introduce to you Alina Komnatnaya today. She is a mama of 3. She currently is a Feldenkrais practitioner here in New Zealand, which you'll find out more about as the conversation progresses. Alina is originally from Russia. Her husband is from the Netherlands. Her first son was born in Kazakhstan, and her daughter was born in the Netherlands, and their third son was born in New Zealand, where they currently are. And oh my goodness, the journey of all of that is quite incredible, particularly when you throw in there really having a strong desire to have a home birth, which is not always that easy in some countries, and throw in there your firstborn child, a newborn, who you intuitively know is not thriving, but you're not quite sure what normal looks like. And when you get medical attention, you realise this little one has a brain bleed and will forevermore have brain damage. And so navigating that as well, there's just so many things. And if you know Alina or you ever meet her, she's so calm and collected, and she just, anything that comes her way, she just takes it in her stride, and you would never know that she's had to go through so many challenges and overcome obstacles in her life. And this is just her parenting life. We didn't get into the other, the previous life, so that's probably another story. But I really hope you enjoy listening to Alina. She's got a lot of wisdom, and from her experiences she now uses this as a gift to help others in the world, and it's so beautiful. So without further ado, I welcome you and bring to you the wonderful Alina. Alina, welcome to the Soulful Mamas podcast. It's so
Hi.
great. It's so good that you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. That's a pleasure. I've been
Yeah.
listening to your podcasts, and I really love the things you share. So yeah.
Thank you. And you'll just be such a beautiful addition to the amazing people that come and share their stories and have these conversations. So
Thank you.
I wonder if you could just start by sharing with us that entry into motherhood for you. What did that look like?
Oh, that was a bit of a bumpy road. And of course I was not prepared for that, but I guess for many of us, that's a kind of initiation we get so often. I stepped into motherhood straight from, I would guess you would call it a corporate world. So I was working in an office for a company 9 till 6, 5 days a week, this kind of stuff. And I probably stopped working just a week before my first child was born. Having to do the transition and all the important things that have to be done that seem to be important at that moment. And I think I was slightly over my 30s, so I had quite a career behind me that I was happy with. I had a job, and So that was all good. And but it was clear for me that I was ready for something else. So it was absolutely consensual. It was expected. It was something I was asking for. So everything was going as planned. And the birth itself was quite complicated logistically because I wanted a home birth, and we were in the country where that was not a common practice. So we had to organize a midwife and all kind of things. So, and the birth itself was really good. It's, yeah, my labor was 6 hours for the first child. So I coped well, so everything was going well. And it's only a few weeks after trying to settle down with the baby and really to, I don't know, kind of appropriate that my new role, that I realized that something was not going well. And it was everything really in the character of my child, because he is like that. He's still like that. So when he was about a month old, we started noticing that he was not doing really well. We went to see the doctors, and nobody really could have an answer for us. It was like, maybe we need to check his tummy. Maybe we need to do an extra ultrasound, that kind of thing. Nothing really urgent. And then all of a sudden, we found him in a coma, and we brought him to a local hospital. Luckily, they didn't lose too much time trying to find out what it was. So we went straight to the neurosurgeons, and they told us that he had a bleeding that was present on his brain. So what followed, that was, of course, a horrible day. And what followed was his 9 days at intensive care, where we were not allowed to come in, so we were not able to see him. And so finally, when the surgery was done, he went out of that state between coma and consciousness and became slightly more conscious. They allowed me to join him and transferred us to a normal kind of neurosurgery ward, so not intensive care anymore. And then we stayed 3 weeks there inside the hospital with no possibility of going. And of course, lots of worries, lots of questions about how the future will develop for this child. And maybe in the first time mom, it's like, do you really want your first experience to be like that? Do you really need it? So coming out and coming home after 3 weeks of the wards and 9 days of intensive care was a bit of a shift, because all of a sudden, I used to live that time in an environment where I was told what to do, when to have meals. The meals were provided. Everything that was done to my child was kind of scheduled. I had no idea what kind of medication he was given, or whatever. When the question asked, the answer was, that's what the doctor told he needs, okay? So that's it. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I had to be at home on my own. And, well, my husband really, he tried to do his best. He put, this, the flags all around the apartment to make it nice, a kind of little bit festive. Sorry, I forgot the word, how you called. The bunting?
The bunting, yeah.
Bunting. So he put the bunting around the apartment and to welcome us and everything. But it was a big thing to be again on my own and take my own decisions. And it was a very slow recovery for him, for my child, of course, but also for me to recover and take back what I think I had, or maybe I needed more of it, which was my own agency and power about, my judgments and taking my own decisions about what needs to happen to this child now, because that was a completely new world of special needs parenting for me. because now I had a child who had a kind of brain damage, and was everything was after that. Yeah, so that was the beginning. That was my initiation.
Wow.
I can laugh about it now, but I still have, I think, a kind of trembling in my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big thing.
Yeah, of course. I can still feel it as well. And can you tell us, because what country were you in, Alina, when this um when you gave?
We were in Kazakhstan in Central Asia. That's where me and my future husband then came to work. I'm originally from Russia, and yeah, so we were in Kazakhstan. We stayed there a few years after that, and then we moved.
Yeah. Was language a barrier for you, or what language do they speak in Kazakhstan? Like,
Oh no, they have their own language, the Kazakh language, but being an ex-USSR country, there were many people were Russian speakers as well,
yeah,
and the city where we lived, there were quite a lot of ethnical Russians there, so language was not an issue at all.
yeah, yeah. But being neither of your home country, the support systems um, were different, I guess. For you, neither of you had
Well,
family.
yeah, we didn't have any support systems in place, and
Mm,
it was partly by choice because, and I hope it will not sound offending to anyone, but I felt somehow that this transition from us being a couple to us being a family, it's the time where I want to do things my way, not necessarily my mom would do. So it was my conscious decision not to ask her help in that fragile time, because I felt like I really need to find my way to deal with this. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not that I wasn't happy with the way my mom did things, but I just knew that our ideas were so different. And I felt that this is a time for me not to be influenced so much by other people, even if they are so close. So I
yeah,
really wanted to take the ownership of that. Of course, I didn't expect probably that I will need that much help. And of course, I didn't expect at all that I would need that much of help in this new unexpected situation. But yeah, it was partly my conscious decision. And I doubt I would do it again in the same way. So when my second child was born, my third child was born, I asked my mom to come and help, and it was great. But the thing is, I knew by the time
hmm,
how I want things to be done,
yeah,
and I knew how I can step into my territory. It was clear for me that those are my boundaries. I know how to do things, and I know how to ask for help without putting anyone into a kind of position, oh, I'm helping you and you really don't want to listen to what I'm going to say, because it's another tricky area, and like I didn't want to step on too many tricky places at once. And I don't know, maybe it's partly sad that we had to navigate that, on the top of everything we have to navigate becoming first-time moms. But well, hopefully for the generation of our children, it will be different, and they will able to ask for help they need without those kind of reservations. No, but like my mom was great. My mom was great. I'm not complaining here. Just I really had that strong conviction that I had to find my way, and I don't need to be influenced by anyone with any good intentions, however good they might be,
yeah,
and how precious that help might be. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's quite that's strong. There's a lot of strength there because it's a inner knowing that you did want to um find that inner power, your own inner power, and honor that. And it's it's something that's not that easy to do, really, is it? Because we get overcome with the shoulding of how it happened for our parents' generation and what your friends or
Mhm.
your friend group in Kazakhstan probably had different ideas as well, and you've probably got maybe a melting pot of people or groups coming together and where you were with all the different ideas. So to hold strong to what it is that you wanted to do, and like you said, you're ready for a family, you're ready to bring a child into the world. It was a conscious choice. There's a lot of um, time and energy around how will this look for us in creating our new little family, and you and your husband both taking aspects of your upbringing possibly, but you're creating your own. And um, I think that is quite a true thing for many of us who are trying to break free of that the mold, if you like, and do it the way that we innately know, that ancient wisdom that we all have within us, and we know what to do and how to do it. It's just it gets shut down. So good on you. That's kind of baptism by fire, though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's well, yeah, you can totally call that. Yeah, I guess we were both like bit of rebels because we left our countries in search of, something else. We were not afraid to leave our lives, our friends, our families behind and form some new connections. And that's how eventually we ended up in New Zealand. But it meant that, yeah, it meant the lack of support, but in the same time, great level of freedom and space for making choices and thinking about how we want things to be done. So that's yeah, there was space for that, and I think I'm grateful. And I think for me, motherhood or becoming a parent, because probably it's relevant to that too. It's really about like entering into your power as a person. And I think for women, for us, it's a really a huge transition. And the quality of entering into this transition and the support we are able to get during this transition can really make a difference about how this transition is lived, because it can be lived in a crisis. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's something we can influence and sometimes we can't. Like, in my case, I couldn't really prevent the crisis that happened. I could only deal with that. But yeah, I think that's a very powerful space, or it can be a very powerful space, this entry into motherhood and the way we live the pregnancy, the birth, and the way we live the postpartum time. There are many possibilities there if we approach them as such.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Absolutely. Did how did you find the experience with your second child, your daughter? Because you weren't in Kazakhstan then, is that right?
Yeah, we decided, well, the thing in Kazakhstan is that first we wanted a home birth, and home birth was quite complicated there because of the logistics. And I didn't want all of that drama. I just wanted a place where, I would be able to have a midwife who just goes with me and supports me. And that's it. I know what to do. I just need some support that it doesn't sound like, a big enterprise.
Mm.
And my husband being from the Netherlands, where home birth is a very common thing. He had a friend who has a daughter who was a midwife. So it was kind of it was not a logical decision for us the first time because I didn't know anyone there. I didn't know how it was going to work. But for the second time, we knew that we don't want to be in the same shoes as we were with our first birth.
Mm.
Mostly, well, part of that being all the formalities, because we actually were in a situation where where we had to kind of prove that the child was ours. Being to
Oh,
foreigners in a
oh
third country where we didn't do things conventional way, the whole bureaucracy kind of came
gosh, yeah.
against us. And we had threats like, okay, we'll have to bring you to the court so that you have to prove via DNA test or whatever that you are the parents, because we are not sure there is some kind of
Oh,
child smuggling is going on there. So it was an extra drama that we didn't really need. So it was very easy decision for us for the second time to go to the Netherlands to bring my mom. I mean, logistically, it was a different type of difficulties because I was on a tourist visa and we had 3 months to have to settle in, to have the child, to get the passports and the visas for the child, and to leave and to get my mom there too. So yeah, it was just different. It looks like we like challenges. I don't know. So it was a different logistical challenge, but like birth-wise, it was I want to use the word smooth. It was not smooth because, you know, when you go to a concert to listen Valkyries and in the night you go into the labor and then you're done in 3 hours, it's not really smooth. But I mean, it was all good. And yeah, so we had that extra difficulty of taking a passport photo for the baby, 6 days old, and then 10 days old, traveling to Den Haag to apply for the passport because the baby has to be there.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, but otherwise it was really good. It was great.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
having the third baby here in New Zealand without having to go anywhere, without having to worry about any bureaucracy and passports and documents, and having my mom again with me, it was just a blessing.
Oh, I mean, what a blessing that finally, third time lucky. What in terms of
Yeah, it was just easy. It
yeah,
was
the
easy.
easier after all of those obstacles. And it sounds, I mean, when you share it, you're very, you know, oh, it's just what had to happen. But I can imagine in the moment, in the time, it would have been felt a little bit overwhelming and slightly stressful.
Oh, well, I had some extra overwhelm in terms of my husband being in the hospital, having some back issues, staying in the hospital for the whole week just before the baby was born. In the meantime, my mom is coming, need to meet her in the airport, bring her here, need to take my husband, bring him home from the hospital. He just started walking around, and you know, the second day he started nesting in, and then the baby was born. So that was some excitement still. It looks like we just
Yeah.
that's our thing, but yeah.
And also in amongst that, you've got a toddler who has who needs extra support with because how did he manage that transition of you you know, being pregnant and moving country and then having a new little sister?
Um, so when the baby number three was born, Alfred was 5 and Adelina was, I think, just over 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he was just watching. He woke up early and he was watching cartoons while I was laboring behind the curtain. That I think probably the most difficult transition was the first one, yes, when Alfred was just 2.5 years old when Adelina was born.
Mm.
And I would say he was not ready. He was not ready to, you know, give up all that attention. And that's where probably we started having some difficulties with his behavior and my ability to manage that. And as long as we were in the Netherlands with my mom, that was probably still okay. But then I came back to Kazakhstan, and then Alex was working full time, and I was at home with this special toddler and a newborn baby. That was a bit of a tricky time. But on the other hand, it was easier to get help there in terms of, you know, having someone in your house to help you with the babysitting, to help you with the
Mm.
cleaning, these kind of things, because Like here in New Zealand, it's much less affordable because of the cost of the human labor. Yeah. So I guess it's much more difficult if you don't have family around you. Is not too many people could afford that. So I had some kind of help there, but it was still, I mean, still you spend the whole day, most of your time. You spent with these two kids, and we still had quite a busy agenda for Alfred in terms of doing his rehab, seeing the doctors, doing this and doing that. So the newborn baby, just had to fit into all that situation. But yes, probably if I knew that it would be that hard on him, I would wait like for another year or so. But on the other hand, we are not, if we had to take these decisions knowing everything that it involves, we probably would never take them.
That's exactly right.
Right? Because if we knew in advance how much work and unexpected things it is to bring a child to the world, we probably would never make a decision, okay, knowing all that, and now getting ready to jump into it. I don't see too many people doing that
No,
because
human population would stop.
yeah, so I guess that's probably there is something good in in the fact that we are not fully prepared to face everything, because we can never be fully prepared to face everything. That's that's life, and that's how the birth is, right? So it starts already there. We never know what to expect. We can think that we are prepared. We can make birth plans and all kind of things. We can create a network, but things sometimes, very often, don't go according to plans. So that's probably the best way to prepare ourselves for motherhood, is to know that things are not going to go according to the plan.
That's right, because when you have that rigidity around something,
Oh, yeah.
it's really confronting. And I've seen lots of women struggle.
Yeah, it's all fluid. It makes you so fluid, I guess. But that means even more important to have that I don't know, some kind of access, reliable access inside you, knowing your values, knowing where your power is, knowing what is that you want in the essence, so that you can allow the rest of it to be fluid and just right.
Yeah.
And all
Love
the
that.
ebbs and flow.
Yeah, flow.
I think that's because, I mean, you cannot do that having a very rigid frame.
No.
And you cannot do that. You cannot allow fluidity unless you have something solid inside. So it's navigating the both, really.
It is, and it's that whole feminine, masculine, those principles, isn't it? And it's having them in alignment, or when one has to come to the fore a little bit more, and the other one, it's this dance almost. So
It's a dance.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
dance.
yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's so true. And like the obstacles and the journey that you've had, and um still being able to smile and share with such grace and continue to flow. This you're still in this state of fluidity, and
it was a learning process.
yeah, for sure.
I had to go through different times, as you can imagine, but yeah, I think I'm in a good place now, so and I'm able to have a laugh for that.
Yeah, these seasons that we go through. And where did it lead you? I'd love for you to share the work that you do now in New Zealand, because it's quite incredible. And for many people, they may not be familiar with what it is that you do. So I'll let you share that if you like.
Yeah, thank you. So my latest professional identity is being a Feldenkrais practitioner. Which means I help people to use movements. I can use touch to help them to become more aware of what they do. and change their habits of holding or moving, something that they do themselves actually to get out of that, cycle of discomfort, of pain. It's very relevant to neuro rehab. So that's how I originally came to it, because here we are not working at the level of muscles or fascias or whatever is that is fancy at the moment. But we are working really with the nervous system. We are working with the brain, trying to see what is that useful or maybe not useful adaptations that our nervous system has created to make sure that we are safe and we can move safe in terms of survival, right? So that's the first level of safety. And we can move through life, because sometimes when safety is involved, we all do some funny things to ourselves. So really kind of unraveling that those things, trying to find what is that is serving us, what kind of habits that we develop that are serving us, and what of kind of habits that are not serving us anymore. We don't need them, and we can just add a little bit more awareness of where we are, what we are doing, what is that we want. It's a kind of, I guess it's on the junction of physical and mindful or spiritual, if you want, because everything that we explore through movement can raise bigger questions, like what we do, how our intention is really aligned with what we actually do, and do we know that that's what we do. So I mean, it can be a very long conversation about that, but you ask about my journey there. And actually for the first time when I heard about Feldenkrais, it was related to the dance world. I was socially dancing tango, and I saw that one of the cool schools in Europe was offering that. And I'm like, what is it? What is this even for a word? Who is doing that? What does it mean? But I had no idea, of course. And then later on, when I was trying to explore all kind of avenues to help my child, we did different things. And then finally I came across of one of Norman Deutsch's book about the brain and how the brain is healing, and all kind of different things that can be involved. And then his second book came out, and there was a whole chapter about Feldenkrais and his ability to help children and like people in general with the method, with the work that he developed. And I was like, oh, like it makes sense now when I read about this. It's really kind of clicks, and I think that's the way, because everybody was telling me things like, okay, so he will now develop till he's 5 years old, and then after that you got what you got, that's it. Or we need to do some stretches, or we need to do this. I'm like, okay, how does it make sense if we have a brain injury here, right? So don't we need to do something with the brain, something with that aspect? So I had plenty of questions, and it seemed to me that I finally heard something that was fitting my bill, something that was like coming home for me. And I talked to a couple of, it was already in New Zealand, and the options of rehabilitation were not too many. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, depends on how you look at it. And I talked to a couple of practitioners, one in Hamilton, one in Auckland. And again, everything they told me, all the conversations, they were like, wow, that really makes sense. I really feel like I found something useful here. And I was like, well, I want to think like these people, because what they offer me, it's really what they think, what they say about my child is really outside the box. And yeah, so that's how I got into the path of getting trained. And then things changed again, speaking about fluidity of our plans, because my original intent was working with children and helping my child But then on the way, I found so many useful things for myself. And I'm like, okay, I really want to take this work into supporting women through all kind of transitions. And that's where I see myself now. I still work with children. It's still a very valuable addition to other kinds of rehabilitation, especially with conditions that involve the brain and nervous system. But I'm really, really interested in supporting women, pregnancy, postpartum, transition to menopause, if you want, because that's kind of starts to be closer to home. And
I hear you. Yeah.
I think, all these transitions, we as women, we go through many transitions in our lifetime. And we go through them every cycle if we are cycling, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all these transitions, they are a vulnerable window where we really need to be kinder, gentler, to have some support, probably to slow down and really to take care of ourselves more than our current society kind of permits or frames it, because that's not things that are spoken about most of the time. And if we don't get that support, then that's a window of risk where we can kind of set the foundation for future issues or for future well-being if we take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where I came now. That's where I want to support women, because I really see those transitions as a big theme, and that's where I want to be.
Oh, I love all of that, Alina. It's so good that you into the world, and it's so good of having these conversations with these amazing women who all have that same impulse almost. And I find it fascinating. When I got into my work, it was the same thing, thinking I'd be helping my daughter through her challenges, but really it was about myself. And then it was about, okay, it's about women. And yeah, it's lifting, recognizing and lifting not just ourselves but each other up, isn't it? So gosh, I'm so excited to see more of your work and how this, more people discovering you and the gifts that you have to offer. So I will add all of you're on Instagram, right? And Facebook.
I am, yeah, I
Yeah.
think. Yes.
Yeah, Facebook and your email, and yeah, all of that. We'll pop that in the show
Thank you.
notes so that people can find out a little bit more about Feldenkrais, and just, most people probably haven't even heard that word before. And I mean, I hadn't before I met you. So, and it's like, wow, okay, such a seemingly simple thing gets so powerful in it's in the subtleties of
Yeah,
yeah.
it is subtle. I mean, I wouldn't say it's simple.
No, but
Because,
it's seemingly, because you do it with
yeah.
such ease, but there's so much behind. Yeah, that's why you train for, I don't, how many years were you training to do this? It felt like a long time.
Oh, it's a 4 year training, and
Yeah.
it's 800 hours on site, like face-to-face training at the time, plus homework. So yeah, the training itself was, I
Yeah.
still don't know how I did it logistically,
Oh,
and having a family and having the youngest child who was just over 1 year old. So yeah, don't ask me. I have no idea how I did that. I think life is pretty easy now. So.
yeah. I think you were just meant to do it, Alina, and somehow, some way, it was just made
It looks
possible.
like, and sometimes you have a calling. And I know that at some stage I had a calling that I knew I had to use my hands,
Yes.
and I have to learn more of that. I'm quite interested now, like I think more and more that being in New Zealand, I really need to learn more about indigenous ways of well-being and, Maori healing arts. I think that like it's a wise thing to do, to learn more about that while I'm here. So
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm really interested in getting more familiar with those things, because I think like having a strong connection with the land here,
Mm-hmm.
and like I feel it. I mean, I'm not from here, but I feel that
Yeah.
this land is kind of attaching me more and more
Yeah.
to this
I've
place.
got goosebumps as you're
Yeah,
saying that.
I
Yeah.
mean, I have no idea whether we are going to stay here forever, we are going to move on, but I feel like finally I have rooted at
Yeah,
least to some
yeah.
extent.
That word just popped in my head too as you said it.
So yeah, no idea where the future is going to take us, but I feel calling, all the connection, and I think that we have some great changes and transformations and transitions ahead, like as humanity, as a society, and that rise in power in women around you in all these transformations that we go through. I think it's not for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that is calling us, and supporting each other, yes, but also answering the call and going out and doing the work.
Ah,
I think
yeah.
that's all what we meant to do now at this lifetime and this age.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. Thank you, Alina.
I feel a lot of power there. It's
Yeah, I can feel it as you're speaking, and I really hope people listening can feel that too. And it's like permission to step into it, and it's having that courage, just that little 5 seconds of courage to like do it, send it, speak it, say it, experience it, whatever it is.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's there.
And like I know that it's having what we experienced in the past years. They say that people need some light things, and people don't want serious stuff or things like that. But I think that you can step out and still be kind and gentle to yourself. And that's the essence of the work that I offer, because I know that life is challenging. I know that for many of us, creating a space to breathe is already a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you learn to be kinder to yourself, to be gentler, to be more present to the subtlety of what is that you sense, what is that you feel, what is that you want, and what is that you want to do from that place, has a lot of relevance for this day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. Oh, yeah. So, Alina, what is it? Before we wrap up, I'm just mindful of your time. Um, what is it that you do now that is soul filling, that keeps your soul full for you?
I think that like this last year, I started really to coming back to what used to be me
Mm-hmm.
before children, in a way that I still, parts of me that I still can connect to, because there are parts of that are kind of gone. And I grew up doing mountain hikes. Before I had children, just a few years before I had, maybe just a year or two before I had my first child and I became mama, I started dancing tango socially. And I really connected more and more with those things like recently.
Mm-hmm.
And being in the nature, by the sea or in the mountains, doing hikes is something that really fills my cup.
Mm.
And I mean, New Zealand is the perfect place for it, right?
It is, yeah.
It's not the place where you have the city life and nightlife or whatever. No, at least not where we live, right? But really, the way to live New Zealand is to do this kind of things: the hikes, the outdoor adventures. And this weekend, by the way, I'm taking my kids on the first overnight hike, and so we're going to
Wow.
stay in the hut. So I'm very excited,
Oh,
because
that's so
that was
exciting.
my childhood, not the hut. We were having tents, no huts, but anyway. And it will be the first. I had a couple of adventures this year, thanks to our friends, but for them, it will be the first backpacking overnight hike.
Yeah. Oh,
experience,
exciting.
which we just need to get ready. Yeah. And it will be very exciting. And yeah, I also found a place and people to, well, people in the first place. I found people to dance tango with. And I'm also very excited about that. Seeing maybe we have some possibilities to create something here in Hamilton,
Yeah.
because that's something that really, really fills me. And just I love the music, I love the dance, I love the embrace. So it's
Oh, so
uh,
beautiful.
yeah, and doing my work, because I had some challenging times last year when my child was not at school and I still had to navigate everything that I want to do. And what pleasantly surprised me, that keeping doing the work, keeping showing up,
Yeah.
and staying with my commitments was easy. And I mean, it just had to happen that way. So I had to do whatever it took to give space and time for that, and it happened. And that's something that kept me going. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
keeping it, it looks like I'm staying, I'm not quitting, which is a nice feeling, because I know that's, my heart, my hands, and my mind are all aligned on what I want to do, and that's a true thing to stay, which is
Oh,
cool.
mm. So good. And that's exactly it. When everything is aligned, something somehow enables that flow just to happen, right? Like you don't have
Yeah,
to, it happens. And we
yeah.
just, sometimes we just have to get out of the way in our mind overthinking it and just allow it to unfold. And it does.
Mhm.
Somehow, miraculously, it does. And so
Yeah.
clearly you're fully on the right path.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that it just happens. You still have to step
Yes,
in, to
yes.
step out, and do things you need to do. But I guess when the intention is really there, and when you're on the path, it's like, somebody stop me.
Ah, that's so good, Alina. Oh, well, thank you so, so much for your time today. It's just been such a blessing to speak with you, and I could just speak with you for ages. But I love your faces. I mean, people are listening to this, they can't see it, but I'm just describing your face is just so lit up. You give this twinkle and sparkle in your eyes, and I can just it's so beautiful and magical to see. So yeah, thank you for what you do and what you offer. And I'm sure people are going to want to find out more about you. And yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. It
you.
was a lot of fun, and thank you so much for the work you do, because I also think that is very much needed. And this new podcast, when you decided to come out and offer it to the world, I think it's very, very needed, appreciated, and yeah, it's precious. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, she's amazing, isn't she? I did tell you it was an amazing story. Alina has such a grace about her. Maybe it's that tango dancing influence, probably most likely the Feldenkrais influence of that deeper awareness of body movement and positioning and how to truly carry yourself. So you probably want to know more about what that is all about. So I have added the links to Alina's website, Facebook, and Instagram pages in the show notes. So have a look, have a read, and yeah, her work, particularly with pregnant mums and postpartum mums, and actually, well, anyone really, but her passion is those sort of transition periods, and also for us, those of us who are going through that transition of perimenopause into the menopausal phase. She is really good at supporting women there too as our bodies change. So yeah, do look her up, because you'll learn a lot. It's fascinating. So the takeaways, as always, it's hard to narrow it down, and I'm sure you have your own, but here's a few for you. Number 1, discovering your own agency and power in navigating the world of motherhood. Number 2, no one is fully prepared for all the situations. So know to be okay with that, and that not all plans will go to plan. Number 3, allow fluidity, and with that, holding a strong inner axis. Number 4, having purpose keeps us moving forward. It's important to answer the call, and just as important, once you've answered that call, you do the work, take action, get it done. And number 5, we all need to do this. Learn to be kinder to ourselves. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you spending your time here with me. I don't take it for granted at all, and I wish you a really, truly nourishing, soul-filling week ahead, and I will see you really soon.